In Dealing with Debt today, Fritz Goldman has more on FICO scores. Fritz?
Joining us today is Sam McElroy, who is one of the co-founders of At Financial, which is a holistic financial advisory firm. I really like the way that sounded. And Sam, you're here to talk about debt.
Yes.
So first of all, let's talk a little bit about FICO scores, because of course that's how most consumers think about debt.
Yeah. Well, when you think about a FICO score, there's been a lot of reports that have come out recently about how FICO scores are actually significantly higher now than they have been previously. And I think that can paint the picture or the impression that we're all doing a lot better with debt. But what a FICO score really measures is how well we manage debt. When people are looking at your credit worthiness, what they're trying to see is, do you have the capacity to take on more debt, in a sense? But that doesn't necessarily talk about the underlying feeling of whether or not we're actually able to deal with debt better, if that makes sense.
And so FICO scores all-time high, but as you said, that doesn't really say anything about what that debt level is. So talk a little bit about, for example, where we're at with debt in the economy as a whole.
Yeah. If you look at debt, and let's say at the consumer side, I believe the numbers are that consumer debt is totaling about $20 trillion right now. And if you break that down, it's about $1.1 trillion in credit cards, about $1.6 trillion in student loans, and about $15 trillion in mortgages. So I think if we look at, the rate at which debt has increased in terms of volume going back to maybe the 1950s till now, you would see this exponential increase in the amount of consumer debt that we currently have.
Yeah, obviously there's been so many more opportunities for, let's say, retailers to offer credit opportunities for consumers, so taking advantage of that, and certainly mortgages naturally are out there as well. But as far as that consumer debt is concerned, we want to minimize that, maximize our return. So what are your tips at helping to reduce our own personal debt?
Okay. I think there's two specific ones. So one is you have to understand the way that debt actually works. When we think about interest rates and somebody says, well, I have a 2% interest rate, we think that that's the cost of interest. But really, the interest rate measures speed, or the velocity, the rate at which you pay interest. What you really want to know is the total cost of interest, and oftentimes you can find that 30 cents on the dollar, 40 cents, 50 cents on the dollar for each payment is actually going towards an interest cost. So you want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. One of the best processes for being able to eliminate debt is to use a process called snowballing debt, where you can do this a lot of different ways, but the traditional variety is you just line all your debts up from smallest to largest. You start paying the minimums on those. You use the surplus to basically go after the smallest debt first, and then each time you free up cash flow, you roll that down to the next debt, and the next debt, and the next debt. That process mathematically has allowed a lot of people to accelerate the rate at which they can be debt-free.
Well, that's a good tip. So, Sam, I want to thank you for joining us today. Very useful tips in helping to reduce our debt.
Thank you for having me.
For more Business First AM, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And go to businessfirstam.com for where to see our show on TV.